I'm Bob Rubin, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Hamilton Project, let me welcome you to our event today, which is Strengthening Student Learning Through Innovation and Flexibility. We started the Hamilton Project roughly 10 years ago, and from its inception, it has had as its bedrock three objectives: growth, broad-based participation in the benefits of growth, and economic security, and it's our very strong view that they are mutually reinforcing, and you put them all together, and what you have is an objective of inclusive growth, and then you develop a policy agenda in pursuit thereof. And for the last 10 years, we have had sessions, such as we're having today, on a whole range of topics relating to inclusive growth. We've had healthcare, we've had the question of how do we deal with the future of work in an age of technology and globalization. We've had criminal justice reform. We've had, I think, 2 events on that, looking at it through the prism of economic imperative. We've had combating poverty, again, as an economic objective, and much else. It is our view that if we're going to have the kinds of widespread income gains and economic security we want in our country, we have got to have growth for a whole host of reasons. And conversely, if we're going to be successful in having growth, we're going to have broad-based participation in the benefits of growth and economic security, again, for a whole host of reasons. Today's discussion returns to the topic of education with a special focus on improving educational outcomes for kids from lower income households. We have a national poverty rate, as many of you know, of 16%, a child poverty rate of 20%, which is a disgrace for the richest country in the world, and now a majority of our kids in public school attend what are classified as high poverty schools. Thus, substantially improving education for kids from economically stressed conditions not only directly affects a large number of our people and is very imperative for them, but is also an enormously important economic issue for our country in order to have an effective workforce in the future. The costs are not social spending, but the costs of doing this are public investment. The problem is getting our political system to understand that, recognize it, and act accordingly. Of course, there's trouble getting our political system to do anything, so that's a part of a broader question. I recently gave a TEDx talk at San Quentin State Penitentiary in California. And as I talked with the inmates in preparing my remarks, we had a conference call with 8 inmates, or roughly 8 inmates. And then I met with them in the prison, and learned about their life situations and their life histories. I was enormously impressed with how thoughtful and how insightful these inmates were, and what terrible price they, the victims of their crimes, our economy, and our society have paid for what so many of these inmates did as a product, at least in my view, of having grown up in what were such difficult conditions, conditions of enormous stress, conditions of inadequate education, inadequate family structure, crime-ridden districts. As one of the inmates said to me, the only role models in his neighborhood were drug dealers. Part of dealing with that is obviously universal pre-K and even more broadly early intervention. But a lot of it also are the issues around our schools, and that is the subject that we are focused on today. This discussion will cover 3 topics: new directions for K-12 education, which proposes tutoring for students who are behind grade, improving targeting and flexibility for Title I funding, and new tools to strengthen learning, which addresses more effectively using digital modalities. Each topic will be addressed with a paper and a panel discussion. We have an extraordinarily experienced and distinguished set of authors and panelists in accordance with the practice of the Hamilton Project. I won't read from their resumes, they're in your materials, but it really is a remarkable group. I want to make one further comment. We are unfortunately at a time in our nation's history when much of what passes for policy dialogue has degenerated into ideology and politics. And in that context, it seems to me that the commitment of our authors and our panelists and of the Hamilton Project itself to serious as a purpose about policy is of extraordinarily great importance. And in effect carries the flame for serious policy during a very difficult time in our political history. And that in itself is important to keep robust policy development alive and also to provide our cities and states and our federal government, when it again becomes functional, and there the issue is primarily Congress, a work product that they can draw off. With that, I would like to recognize the extraordinary capability of the Hamilton Project team, the leaders of Diane Schatzenbach, our director, and Kristen McIntosh, our managing director, and also of their colleagues, hardworking and talented, all of whom have put together the intellectual leadership, the intellectual content, and the logistics of this event. And with that, I will turn the stage over to Diane, who will moderate our first panel. Thank you.